scripture reading comes from the book of Acts, chapter 17, verses 22 through 31. Then Paul stood in front of the Areopagus and said, "Athenians, I see how extremely religious you are in every way. For as I went through the city and looked carefully at the objects of your worship, I found among them an altar with the inscription, 'To an unknown God.' What therefore you worship as unknown, this I proclaim to you, the God who made the world and everything in it, he who is the Lord of heaven and earth, does not live in shrines made by human hands, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything, since he himself gives to all mortals life and breath and all things. From one ancestor he made all nations to inhabit the whole earth, and allotted times from their existence and their boundaries of the places where they would live, so that they would search for God and perhaps grope for him and find him, though indeed he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as even some of our own poets have said, for we too are his offspring. Since we are God's offspring, we ought not to think that the deity is like gold, silver, or stone, an image formed by the art and the imagination of mortals. While God has overlooked the times of human ignorance, now he commands all people everywhere to repent, because he has fixed a day on which he will have the world judged in righteousness by a man whom he has appointed. And of this he has given assurance to all by raising him from the dead." Our second reading comes from the book of John, chapter 1, verses 1 through 18. "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things come into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being in him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light which enlightens everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. Yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave the power to become the children of God, who were born not of the blood or of the will or of the flesh or of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as a Father's only Son, full of grace. John testified to him and cried out, 'This was he of whom I said, he who comes after me ranks ahead of me because he was before me.' From his fullness we have not all received grace upon grace. The law indeed was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God. It is God, the only Son, who is close to the Father's heart, who has made him known." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Good morning. Last week, we talked about Paul speaking in the city of Athens in the area. So imagine with this, the buildings, the structures around that city. And he talked to them about an unknown God. And last week we talked about God the Father, the first person of the Trinity. Today we're talking about God the Son. Now, Jesus always was, just like God the Father and God the Holy Spirit always was. So even in the Old Testament, when you talk about God at work, we tend to see it primarily through the person of God the Father. Jesus is there too. But Christmas we celebrate the birth of Jesus, and purple is our color for that time of year. He came, and he also became human, flesh, and lived among us. And he lived just like we do, wanting the meals, wanting to rest at the end of the day. Everything that we faced, he faced too. He was also fully human. In his ministry, he taught and he showed us how to live. Now, as we marked just recently, he died on the cross, but he was raised again from the dead, and that's what we celebrate on Easter, that he is alive even today. And though we know that he rose into heaven, and as we say in the Creed, sitteth on the right hand of God the Father Almighty, we know he is there. He is alive, working even today. Jesus always was. Jesus lived among us. Jesus showed us how to live, and Jesus is with us now, even in isolation, where we find ourselves. When you pray with me, using the words of a little song a friend of mine wrote some years ago. So please pray with me. Jesus never stops loving us.
Jesus never stops loving us.
Died on the cross for us.
Died on the cross for us.
Still watches over us.
Still watches over us.
Jesus never stops loving us.
Jesus never stops loving us.
Amen.
Amen.
The setting is Montreat, near Asheville in the mountains of North Carolina. However, the speaker was based in a small town in Texas. I say based in Texas because the speaker was from Aachen, Germany, originally. It's a little town near the western border, just a few miles from the Netherlands. She was born in 1936. and her father had served as a Protestant pastor who opposed Hitler. He had networked with the Confessing Church, a group of Protestant pastors and churches who stood against efforts to nationalize the Protestant Church of Germany. Well, as she spoke to us in Montreat, many years had passed. I want to say this took place about 1999. Along the way, she had immigrated a new life in the new world. She had received a call and responded to that call to ministry, and she served a Presbyterian church in a smaller Texas town. And that day, she spoke about the community Easter sunrise service. The leadership of the local ministerial alliance had scheduled her to be the preacher. Now, one of the community pastors had an issue with her preaching. Now, she explained some of the history, the backstory of this gentleman, and she truly had compassion for him. However, she spoke to the man and to the group. She spoke about the hope of the resurrection. She spoke about the hope it gave her family in Germany in those difficult days. She spoke of the power of the witness to the resurrection. Now, she must have said the right word, because that pastor said in effect, "Well, I have no problem with a woman testifying to the power of the resurrection." And so a happy compromise was struck. She did not preach, she testified, and all were blessed.